Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat while I go for a walk around my local neighbourhood with my dog. Chat about some of the things that have happened in Spain over the last week or so. So let's go. Now get the weather out of the way. As you can see, a nice spring day today, nice sunny day. Few clouds in the sky, not many. I think it was supposed to be cloudy, but that's not the case. The sun is out, getting up to around 25, 26 degrees Celsius today. And those are temperatures around 5 or 6 degrees less than we've had over the last few days. We've had some quite warm temperatures for this time of the year, very unseasonal weather. In some parts of Spain it was up around 40 degrees. Down in the south, Córdoba, Andalusia, Sevilla for example, places down there. And here, as I said, around 33, 34 degrees yesterday, which is very unseasonable. But hey, as we know, the weather is changing. Spring this year has been brought forward by about a month. Not sure what it's like in other parts of the world, but here at least, spring brought forward by about 30 days this year. And also, as a result of these high temperatures, the health ministry here in Spain has been forced to bring forward their heat plan or their heat warning system. Whenever it gets too hot, the ministry announces some warnings, 0 through to 3, and that has this year been brought forward, as I said. But the good news for people that don't like hot weather is that we should be getting back to more spring-like temperatures next week and the week after. So don't put that doona away just yet. So, what's been going on in Spain over the last week or so? Well, as can be expected, considering that we are in an election year in 2023, it's all about election promises. As we know, over the last week and a half or so, Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has been announcing social housing project after social housing project after social housing project. I think in total over 100,000 new social housing units have been announced by the Prime Minister over the last 10 days or so. And as usual, a lot of people have been critical about these announcements from the Prime Minister, saying that it's impossible here in Spain to build so many social housing units, at least in the short term anyway. But I'm not sure if the government has put a time frame on when they're going to have these social housing units ready, but I imagine not a lot of people care. They just want to hear the sound bites. And I, like many people, are skeptical about this plan, and basically I don't think that we'll ever see this amount of social houses, at least in the short term. But as we know, we live in a democracy, and the objective of politicians is to make short-term promises because they don't know if they're going to be there for longer than 4 years or not. And let's be honest, they are very rarely held accountable for these broken promises. I'm not going to say that this is a broken promise just yet. Time will tell. But myself, and as I said before, lots of people skeptical about this new social housing plan. And why am I so skeptical? Well, basically it's because if you want to get a project like this done, or the 3 projects that have been announced done, you need to get a lot of people on board, a lot of people on the same page, local councils, regional governments, and that is very, very difficult here in Spain given the current political climate. Well, not just the current political climate, but the political climate in general. And it's not only getting the different town halls and regional governments on board, considering that they might belong to a different political party. That's only part of the problem. Another issue is getting the ministries in the same government to agree. And what I mean by that is that the other day, Pedro Sánchez announced that some 20,000 public housing units would be built on Ministry of Defence land, but the plan that they have to make this happen is also very convoluted and strange. Because the plan is that one ministry, the ministry that has these lands, the Ministry of Defence, the idea is that that ministry sells the land to another ministry for a cash transaction. So that in itself doesn't really make sense. But anyway, we'll see what happens next week in Spain. I'm not predicting a lot will happen, given the fact that there are 2 public holidays next week, in Madrid at least. Monday and Tuesday are public holidays, so I don't think there is going to be much political activity, and therefore I don't think there are going to be too many promises made. But as I always say, time will tell. Now, keeping on the subject of political promises, a huge political promise was made by the new political party, Sumar, and its leader, Yolanda Díaz, last week also. And it's related to the old chestnut of universal basic income. Now, we first heard about the topic of universal basic income here in Spain around 7, 8, maybe 9 years ago. The political party Podemos put it on their platform saying that everybody here in Spain would get a universal basic income. But of course, that idea never came to fruition, and now again we're hearing the words universal basic income. Well, in fact, we're not hearing the exact words universal basic income because Yolanda Díaz is preferring to call it something else. In fact, I believe it's being called some type of generational inheritance, and basically the idea is that every child in Spain, when they turn 18 years of age, gets the amount of 20,000 euros put into their bank account. That's right, you heard it correctly. 20,000 euros will be deposited into young people's bank accounts when they turn 18, or at least that's the plan, that's the idea that Yolanda Díaz and her party have put on the table for Spain going forward. So the idea of a universal basic income off the table, and this new idea to give young people when they turn 18 20 grand is on the table, and I think those young people, if they do get this money, will be able to do with it whatever they want. If they want to put a deposit down on a home, they will be able to do that. If they want to invest that money in a business, if they want to invest the money in the stock market, they can, or if they want to spend the money wherever they want to, they will also have the freedom to do that. And what are some of the economic experts here in Spain saying about this plan? Well, some of them think that it's a good idea if young people invest the money wisely. If, for example, they do put the money into a deposit for a home, or they invest in a company, or they invest on the stock market, that could be good. But the problem is if they waste the money on consumption, and that could be a real risk. But I don't think the exact details have been laid out yet. We'll have to wait and see what they are exactly. But it could be a good idea, or it could be a bad idea, depending on what young people spend that money on. And of course, another question that we need to ask, and perhaps the most important question that we need to ask, is where is this money going to come from to pay young people 20,000 euros when they turn 18? Well, according to Yolanda Díaz and her party, the money is going to come from an extraordinary tax on the rich of around 10% per annum. Believe it or not, take the money from one group basically and give it to another. Good idea or not? Again, let me know what you think. But as one economist has pointed out, and maybe rightly pointed out, rich people in this country are not going to sit around and watch their wealth disappear in the form of a tax at 10%. And as I said before, a yearly tax that is going to be placed on their wealth and given to the younger generations. I don't think they're going to sit around and take that. So what will that mean? Well, basically, the rich people will take their capital and move to another country if they can, a safer place for them to have their investments. And as another economist also pointed out, it's not easy to get a 10% return on your money nowadays. And if the government suggests taxing you at 10%, then obviously you're going to take decisions. And what will happen if these rich people decide to take their money out of Spain? Well, I can tell you now that there will be a smear campaign against them. They will be called unpatriotic, and the government will do everything in their power to keep them here. But I must say that we are only speaking hypothetically at the moment, because Yolanda Díaz has not been elected yet. She hopes to be elected. She hopes to continue in government. And if that is the case, maybe this could become a plan. But as I said, it's only an idea. Currently, an election promise. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I don't like about this unseasonal hot weather, and it's the amount of bugs that are flying around at the moment. Since I've been doing this video today, I've been bitten about 10 times by little mosquitoes. Not sure what type of mosquitoes they are, but very painful. So the bugs and bichos, as they say here in Spain, are out in force. So a negative aspect of the good temperatures. Now, the final thing I want to talk about today relates to tourism here in Spain, or a certain type of tourism, what they call in Spanish the turismo de borrachera, drunken tourism, where people come down to Spain with the sole purpose of partying and getting drunk. And as we saw earlier in the week, I think Thursday, the police in Mallorca in the Balearic Islands, Palma de Mallorca, the capital city there, are going to crack down on booze tourism. And why have they announced this crackdown on booze tourism? Well, basically, locals in places like Palma de Mallorca, I say Palma, but there are other places around the country too that suffer from this type of tourism. Locals in that area are fed up with this type of tourist. And we all know the type of tourist that I'm talking about, the type of tourist that, as I said before, comes down to Spain with the sole objective of getting absolutely smashed, whether it be through alcohol or through drugs, absolutely smashed, and they run amok. And ugly scenes follow. Ugly scenes of violence, ugly scenes of vandalism, ugly scenes of domestic violence, and occasionally somebody falls from a 10-story building. But the question I have is, why has it taken so long to try to clean this up? Why has this type of tourism been allowed to go on for so long? Well, the answer is fairly simple. It's all about the money, 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 because this type of tourism brings in a lot of money to the local economies. And when people start making money from something, good money from something, no matter how dirty the industry is, it's very difficult to get rid of. And let's be honest, some of these tourism resorts have been built on the back of this type of tourism, this drunken tourism. We saw last year, and I think it was also in the Balearic Islands, that some resorts there decided to limit the amount of drinks people can have with their package holidays. Some restaurants decided to ban football strips, people wearing football strips, from entering the restaurants. So this type of policy has been going on now for at least a couple of years. For some people, this type of tourism is all they think about when they hear the word Spain. Sun, sex and sand. Throw in cheap alcohol, and for some people that's a fantastic holiday. But before I go any further, I will say that this type of tourism, this drunken tourism, is not unique to foreign tourists. Lots of Spanish people also go to places like the Balearic Islands, Mallorca for example, to get drunk, especially end of school trips. So it's not only foreigners that like to let their hair down and get a little bit carried away when they're on holidays. The locals do it as well. But I've mentioned this before and I'll mention it again. The way people get drunk, the way the Spanish get drunk, and the way some foreign tourists get drunk, for example people from the United Kingdom, is completely different. And basically the main difference is the times that people get drunk. Foreign people, a lot of the times when they come down to Spain on holiday for this type of holiday, they get drunk very early. They start drinking very early in the day, probably around lunchtime. They continue drinking through the afternoon, and by 6, 7, 8 p.m. they are absolutely blind. And what happens is that Spanish people, after they have had their siesta, come downstairs, go out onto the street and see all of these young drunk foreign tourists, and that's why they get a bad reputation. They don't see young Spanish people getting as drunk because young Spanish people get drunk a lot later. They don't start drinking until after dinner, which normally is late in Spain, 10, 11 p.m. and then the nightlife for young Spanish people starts then, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and therefore the majority of people, the majority of the public have gone to bed and they don't see Spanish people running amok. They only see the foreigners. And that's why young drunk foreign tourists get a bad reputation and the young drunk locals don't. So my advice would be, if you are a young person thinking of coming to Spain for one of these types of holidays, do what the locals do. Keep out of sight in those peak hours of the evening. Keep out of sight around 8, 9, 10 p.m. Go out late, find yourself a group of Spanish people to follow along with, and you shouldn't have any problems. That would be my advice. But anyway, I'm sure my words of wisdom will fall on deaf ears. So, time to wrap this video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate some of the topics out in the comment section if you like. Give us your opinion on all of the political promises going on at the moment. Give us your opinion on social housing projects. Give us your opinion on this universal basic income, or the payment of 20,000 euros proposed by Yolanda Díaz for young people. Let us know what you think in that comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. And if you're in Spain, enjoy the long weekend. Hasta luego.